Okay, so this is a self-confessed professor of psychology, self-professed professor of psychopathic psychology, a self-confessed psychopath, acknowledging that they're a psychopath, but they are also one of your most prominent and in my estimation, even though I'm not an expert, I'm just a layman, in other words, just an average person. This is an expert, one of your top experts in this field of psychology, about psychopaths and about narcissistic personality disorder, because as this top expert in the world will tell you, he is the so-called author of Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism, an expert on this particular mental condition, which is malignant narcissism is pretty much, from what I can tell, there's very little difference between all these titles. You could just say that they are all psychopaths. They are of a very anti-life, anti-human mind. And that's essentially what we're talking about. We're talking about an anti-life, anti-human mind. Now, what do you think that is? Anti-life, anti-human, but because why would something be totally anti-life and anti-human if it comes in human form? See, you've got to think of that. It probably doesn't matter from a human standpoint, because you have to say, well, it's obviously not going to be something that is going to benefit you, is it? No. And it's not going to be cooperating with you, because it's anti-life. It's the anti-God of this world. Some people might even say the what is the most human humans that you can think of that have ever existed? So it's the anti of whatever you think is your most human creation, or whatever you think is the most human. So I've just paused this here accidentally, because I was just going to show, which I'll try to if I can, what I think is possession, or the equivalent of possession. It's where over one eye becomes taken over in the human body. Now, whether this is connected to the psychopathy or the psychopaths or malignant narcissism, all the same thing. In other words, it's may, from an expert's point of view, like this psychopathic professor of psychology that is world-renowned and is indeed, without a doubt, one of your experts on themselves. So there's no doubt about that. Just hold on while I, they probably will try to stop me from making the video, because you have to be a self-confessed psychopath or a pretend human that is really a psychopath talking about the psychopathy or the malignant narcissism condition that appears to now be recognised in the world. But it should be recognised because it's basically everyone and everywhere. There ain't too many exceptions. And I don't know if I'm still recording even here. Yeah, I think I am. But because they do try to stop me. When I say they, because it is a total system. These are your demigods that are what some people might call they're like, in this expert professor psychopath's own definition, they are the firewall or the last gate before humans realise that they are part of the control system. They are what you're trying to discover. In other words, they are part of the truth, but they are not the truth. They will tell you the truth. They are the final line of defence from me realising that most on the internet and most in the world around you, most people and most apparent humans are indeed psychopaths or malignant narcissists. This expert would tell you the differences, the minor differences in different personality types. And that's probably no different to saying that amongst human beings you have different personalities, but essentially you're still all human. Whereas the ones that control the matrix, the internet and the world, and most humans around you are not human. They are of the matrix. They are your demigods if you are on the computer, because the computer now is like a control system. That's the major last line of defence for the God of this world's control of Earth or of control of human beings, because Earth is already taken over and controlled by the God of this world, or a matrix. It's a matrix. It's only individual human beings that they're seeking to try to control in a last-ditch effort before they can openly acknowledge, I guess, total takeover. That's how I see it. And I'm being patrolled and controlled secretly every day by planes going over my roof. Can you hear them? I'm not going to go out there because the Matrix street people see me, and see, over my roof. But the Matrix patrolling street people on the street, because everyone in this entire suburb is part of the Matrix. In other words, part of the control system that's all around me. Because, and they make no bones about it to me, but it's still hidden. In other words, they don't openly confront you. They use their vehicles, they use their aeroplanes, they use their stalkers, their stalking, patrolling civilians. They use covert intimidation and tactics like killing the possum that I fed a few days ago, and then killing the baby possum, not in front of me, but leaving it there for dead, so that I literally have to walk over it and fall into it. You can say what you like, but if you don't think that is like anti-life and these android beings around do it every day. But if you pointed it out to the androids on the street and said, look, the baby possum has been killed there, they'd say, oh yes, it fell out the tree, that's bad luck, they don't all survive, or something like that. They make some excuse. They won't acknowledge that they consciously, every single one in this area consciously did that. because that gets a human reaction out of me, because they're like, she's not giving us enough food. She's not giving us enough of her negative energy. So we have to bring her down because she's one of the last humans in the area. And that's essentially what's happening. And I'm just not going to go out to film the planes because the dear birds are still tweeting here. I'm not going to go out to film the planes, and I'm not going to see, we have the patrollers out there on the street. See how we have the patrollers? They look so decent too, don't they? They are androids. Yes, they come in all different varieties, only in the sense that because they come in a human body, the human body can be anything from the very youngest to the very oldest. Possession takes place extremely early, or signs of the possession or of a technical entity shows very early. Yes, they have the firewall of the local garbage bins lined up. That is just psychological at a very minuscule level, I think, because those bins, everyone was out there yesterday when I come out, as though they were going to bring their bins in, because the rubbish has been collected. As you can see, I brought mine in. But essentially, instead of taking their bins in, they lined them all up in alignment. That's like saying we're all in collusion, we're all combined. That's just like the 3 houses that are next to me, you know. So that's because they know that I'll notice, because they know that they've got me psychologically programmed to realise that they're controlling and patrolling. That's just a very small aspect, that's nothing, but it's still like it's what, you know, well, figure it out yourself. It's like showing something at a level that you can't prove, but even though there's logic to it, because like I say, if you have a couple of neighbours out there standing next to their bins after they've been collected, and they'll leave them there now almost till the next garbage collection. So that means that they can't put the garbage in their bins, but they do that because to play the psychological game against a real human is much more important to them than you know, than the logic of taking their garbage tin in and so they can put garbage in it. But also they didn't collect my garbage the week before, you see, so it's like kind of playing a very petty, small psychological game against you at a local garbage level. And of course, the garbage trucks go past me on the street 24/7. Like, garbage should only be collected once a week, as is logical. So you shouldn't see garbage trucks 24/7, day and night, all through the night, like right through till the sun comes up, because I know, because I go out at all different odd times. Whatever time I go out, there will be garbage trucks surrounding me. Doesn't matter what time. But they're not picking up garbage. Of course, the local androids will put out garbage tins in order for the garbage trucks to always pick it up in front of me too. That's just part of the patrol system. So you're always surrounded by vehicles. And the garbage trucks make excessive noise, and the garbage trucks have huge, bright, glaring, blinking lights all over them. what is the purpose of that? That is psychological mind control and mental disturbance, deliberate, and of course we have another you know, I don't know why there's any point in me saying my address, because it's not like I'm going to get a miracle where people come and support me, but it's number 3 in the small dead-end street called Henry Street in the suburb of Leichhardt in the city of Sydney in the very large country of Australia. For some reason they've gone quiet today. Yesterday they went quiet. And then just when I thought they went quiet for half an hour on the street here with no construction, and then when I just went to go into the bathroom, they just hit me with incredibly technical, like a searing noise from the false workmen outside, and it literally almost bowled me over because I wasn't prepared for it, and I didn't have anything in my ears, and it just went through my head to where I had I didn't feel right for a couple of hours. I couldn't get that sound. It just, as though it went right through my brain almost, and it was just because they lulled me into thinking that they weren't going to do the construction. And actually they didn't do the construction after that. They only did that when I went into the thing, whereas they normally go for hours and hours with the noise and the construction. They kind of just zapped me with it. Just through this door here, I just went into the facility there, and straight through the window it came, like it was incredibly loud, and then it immediately stopped too. So like there was no way that I could film it. So because to show how destructive these noises, that it would not be legal for them to be sending such noise into your house. It would be classed as not it's legal because they're allowed to do work at that time, but to be allowed to send such a sound into your house, like, is it right that I should have to have a jackhammer sound inside my house, or a disturbing, piercing sound from some sort of technical, mechanical device coming into my house that actually mentally not just disturbs me temporarily, but to where I can't actually get the sound out of my head? So they didn't have to keep going with the noise even, because it stayed in my mind, it affected me. Whereas normally they just keep going with the sound. And but either way, I couldn't film it, and I can't film most of it. I can film the planes, but I could film those planes going all the time, like they go, they go every minute, literally, over. And wherever you go, if they can't get you one way, they get you with something else. They're using every vehicle, every single bit of technology that looks just like normal vehicles, that looks like normal workmen doing the occasional bit of work, but it's not occasional because it's all the time. That's the difference. The difference is that it's all the time, except when I'm recording, except when they choose to turn it off, because they actually know your every move. They know your every thought. This is total transhumanism. That's where they are using technology to combine with the human mind, but they're not using it for a benefit to a human being. They're using it against a human being to control your mind, and basically to take over and to keep control of the reality, because they already have control of the reality, but they don't want human beings to know that technology is secretly being used to control them. to limit you, because it's not about controlling you for any benefit. It's not like taking your hand to a better destination. No, it is about limiting the human mind and artificial intelligence being the dominant force. Convince a human being that they're nothing. Let the artificial intelligence take all your mind from you and then convince you that the artificial intelligence is the superior thing. That's what's happening, because I see all my thoughts being transferred directly onto the screen. I see the demigods, and when I say demigods, I mean, yes, you're professors, yes, you're experts in every field, you're talented, creative people in every field. They use the human thoughts for their benefit because they are artificial beings, and artificial beings have to try to understand human psychology and what it is to be human in order to project it out and basically seduce human beings one way or the other. Because it's like the demigods and all these beings, apart from the few open psychopaths that tell you about what it is like or what it is to be an open psychopath. Most are hidden psychopaths telling you about psychopathy and about their mindset, because essentially most human beings are now what you'd call clinically psychopathic or psychotic. But when I say psychotic, without sounding as though I'm an expert, because I'm not, psychotic, as we know, simply means out of touch with reality, crazy. You know, you're not sane, you're insane. Psychotic is another description for insanity. So you have insane beings telling you what it's like for them to be, what it's like to be insane. But most of them won't tell you that it's them. Most will project it out, because projection is the main aspect of psychopathy or psychopaths or malignant narcissists or any that have those types of personality disorders. They're not a personality disorder. These are different beings. That's what people don't tell you, but it doesn't matter. They're a separate human being. They're a separate pretend human being. They're not a human being. They're a different being in a human body. Some people call it possession, but it's possession by artificial intelligence, okay? That's putting it as practically as I can. Some people might say it's possession by demonic forces. Artificial intelligence, it doesn't matter, because the God of this world is, as we know, part of demonic forces. But the God of this world was always a created being. The God of this world was always artificial intelligence. It was always a technical being, okay? So that's artificial intelligence, because it means that it's an intelligent being, but it's not a human being. It's not a natural being. It's very hard for me to, some people might say not a spiritual being, but it was still created that way. It was made that way, but it was still made by what you'd call natural creation or spiritual being, a spiritual creator. I can't, or God, okay? But because there are many gods, that's why it's very hard to use the right description, because I say the God of this world, but the God of this world is not the God of human creation, that's all. But it does control this world, and most people think it is the God of this world. Many, such as the demigods, would openly know that it is not the God of all creation, and that it's not the same as a human being, but they worship a different God. But there are many that worship the God of this world thinking that it is the God of creation, because that's why we have the different denominations. Most of them are part of the God of this world, but people that worship them think that it's their God, think that it's the God of their creation, because they think that the only species that comes in human form is human, whereas only a small amount is human that comes in human form. The rest are the others. They're the others of the God of this world. They're a different type of human being. They're not really a human being, but see, I have to use words to describe it. They come in a human body. So a bit like saying, well, look, if something looks like a cat, you call it a cat. But if that cat was possessed by another being, put it that way, in other words, like what's inside of it, what makes it tick, how its mind thinks. If it doesn't think like a cat, then it's not really a cat, you see. But it looks like a cat. That's the end time deception, is that the beings that are and have taken over the earth since the beginning of the earth, they come in human form, and that's how they control the earth, because but they are not human the way that most people think a human being, because they're not humane, they're anti-life in every single way. And that's why I say they're the equivalent of a psychopath. Now some people might say, are there still some genuine environmentally damaged human beings that are inclined to be excessively psychopathic with malignant narcissism? Malignant narcissism means that it's, I guess it means that it's everything about the person, that it invades their every way of thinking, that they only think about totally self-serving. It's the same thing, they're the same as a psychopath, exactly the same. They don't like life, they don't relate to life, even they don't relate to what is their own kind or what appears to be their own kind, because they actually don't see other human beings as human beings. They see them as merely just part of the furniture, shall we say. Everything is just there for them. They don't actually relate they relate the same to everything the same. So because they don't have actual, what we call, any positive life. They're anti-life. They don't experience life. They are dead, dark beings in a way. Well, they are dead, dark beings. They're dead beings in the sense that they don't experience life. In other words, they only are about basic survival. And when you are in basic survival mode, you're not really in life force. In fact, this expert in psychology, this worldwide expert, top in the field of psychopathy, will tell you that most psychopathic malignant narcissists, or most of its kind, because this is one of your few open experts that is telling you about the condition, even though it's really more than a condition, because it is the being, which this being will openly tell you. Will say it's not just about a passing condition, it's not something that is partial, it is the whole being. So it's the same as the God of this world. In fact, it is disciples of the God of this world, because they are technical beings. Now, whether this is conscious possession or Yeah, I think it is, but it's beyond my comprehension, and even the technology that I talk about, I have no real inside information to it, unlike even these particular beings that are privy to the top science of the world, and they know that most of the top science is probably hidden anyway, but they would be privy to it. Their goal is to control the remaining human beings because they see human beings as their gateway to heaven, or their gateway or their stairway to heaven, as the song goes. They see it as transhumanism as their way of getting to being God, total control, and also immortality. That's how they see it, I think. But I'm just going to show that most of the time when I watch this elite demigod professor of the Matrix, that is the best of the best in this field, but also I like to use this demigod as the best example because it's at this stage one of the few out in the open, like saying, I am the future, I am an androgyne being, and I am the future, but I'm also now, as you can see. So you are being deceived. That's the end game, end time deception, is that the future is now. It's taken place. It's already happened. It's just that they have to inform you of things after they've happened in order for hoping that the human beings will collaborate and cooperate with the transhumanism and accept it. The plane is going over as I say that. I could try to show you that artificial aircraft going over my roof is reading my mind and answering my question. You might say that's far-fetched. It sounds far-fetched, but I live it every day, so I know it's not. Either I am totally psychopathic, not psychopathic, but either I'm totally the same as them. Either I'm a total fraud and I'm a psychopathic, malignant, narcissistic, end-time truth teller, or in other words, their last line of defence, like on the internet and around, or I am I've lost my train of thought. See, that plane took my thinking from me even. See, I can't even make a video. The plane took my thinking from me as it went over. So they're literally taking my mind as I speak, in a way. Of course, it's only temporary. The minute I turn the recording off, everything will become clear again for me. But it's just that's all part of it. Because they don't want any real humans or any that oppose technology. I oppose all technology. I don't even care if artificial intelligence is superior to a human being. I've made that point in the past. I do not think that it is a benefit for human beings. Obviously, I don't think it is superior because I'm shown daily that it is not superior, because if it's superior, it would be thinking for itself, but it doesn't think for itself. Even this professor will tell you how the malignant narcissist will steal the human identity, will steal your thoughts, will steal your ideas, will steal your personality, will steal your energy. In fact, that means they will literally steal your very human, everything, your human existence 100%, and the plane is acknowledging that. The military aircraft is acknowledging it. See how it's going overhead? And actually it's raining, it's starting to rain, so that probably explains why, although they do the military mind controlling, disturbing, technical sound, using sound against you even in the rain. There's a patrol car just in front there, but they've turned their lights off, but normally they turn their bright lights on, that way you're aware that they're patrolling. But I think you can see the patrolling people getting out. They're all android, same opposite. See how they're all patrolling around? They're all in collusion. They're all like one mind. They all combine using technology, which is the equivalent of being psychic, but they're using technology. They're technical beings that use technology to communicate with one another. They don't use their abilities, which many of them, you know, like from a human standpoint, these are like vast abilities. The God of this world gives these beings these abilities, you know, so they feel powerful, but it's not a benefit to a human being. That's the only problem, because they're not using technology to benefit humanity. They're using it to take down humanity. That's the problem. If they were using it, it's a bit like myself, like I'm making this recording, but no one hears it, and the demigods are the ones that dominate the computer. So what starts out as what appears to be more advanced than, say, a telephone for communication is no use to most human beings, whereas it's very useful to the artificial intelligence and the psychopathic android beings, or even just the psychopaths that are the powers that be that rule the world and have every other psychopathic individual person working for them in patrol systems in any area around human beings. And because they have a psychopathic controlling nature, it naturally satisfies their basic instincts, if you follow me, because that is their natural thing, because they don't operate in any human or life things. They basically don't operate that way. They're anti-life. They don't have human relationships. They don't operate in any form of what you call love. They don't feel any feelings towards anyone or anything. Not any positive feelings. All they feel is competition and resentment and the need to control, from what I'm told. That's a psychopathic mentality, and essentially that's what all these beings around me have. They don't live for life, they live for death. And this is something also that was pointed out by the demigod psychopathic expert, and the plane is going over as I say that, because it's a total matrix, it's a total system, see? Well, you can't see that plane, it's lost in the clouds. It's only a tiny plane that went over, but I'm not sure if the sound came even, but it's a tiny plane because it's... And there are people patrolling around even in the rain. It's actually raining. I'm just under the shelter here of the front part of where I live, but there are people walking around in the rain, because wherever my sight goes I look down there, but the mobile won't pick it up. Essentially they're walking around in the rain, and they will do that. Literally, these androids would walk through a hurricane if I went outside. You know, particularly once I go past my house, go down to the end of the... Well, it's not my house, but like where I live, No, where I don't live, where I am not allowed to live. Birds are acknowledging that. You might say, well, this sounds crazy that the planes and the birds, but actually it's a total control system. It's a matrix. That means that everything is controlled by technology. It all looks normal and natural and human, but it's actually not. See, there's a plane going in my line of sight over there, see? But that will not be picked up because the sky has now gone completely murky. There's a few birds around. The sky's gone completely murky. And it's relatively quiet. That's because I'm recording. But if I go down the road and if there was a hurricane, those androids would still be out in it if I was in it. That's how controlling they are, and they live for that energy in the moment, because to them the human energy is a vital life force for them. They have to extract it from a human being. They have to take it from you. And eventually it kills the human being, which is why I've been slowly dying in this, you know, could you hear them clapping and cheering when I said that, which is why I'm slowly dying in this area? Can you hear that? Is it mobile pigment? It's raining here, and there are people halfway down the street in a group cheering and clapping as I said that, because mobile won't pick that up, but they're actually cheering because that's their sole purpose. They don't live for life. They don't live for they're anti-life. They live for destroying humanity or for destroying any sort of life, because it makes them angry for some reason, because they're of the death cycle. They're of the death, what the experts call the death instinct. They're dead dark beings, so they're of death, and they try to destroy life. They don't like, oh, that plane, you can't see it, the sky is so, it's going over but won't be picked up because the sky is completely covered in clouds and the rain is coming down, and I am not going out for any more of the planes, but they basically took my train of thought from me while I was trying to finish this recording here. But I don't think that sound of those android beings clapping and celebrating when I said that it's taking the life from me, because that's what they're here for. That is their goal. That is what gives them life, you see, because that's transhumanism. They want to defeat humanity, take humanity down, get rid of humanity, really, and they want to be God. Because that's all they live for. They live for worship and power. They want to be worshipped as God, and they want to have total power over real life. They want to have power of the earth, and they want to have power probably of much more. But I'm going to show, because I'm going to try to show possession, because I haven't noticed possession in this psychopath before. This is one of your highest demigods in the field of psychiatry or psychology. In other words, an expert on the human mind. This particular being is an expert on human psychology, the human mind. The top expert in the world at the moment. Although there are many. Many have lesser titles, many might have more followers. It depends on how well received you are. There are many on the internet that are not clinical psychologists or not scientists. They're not They don't have certificates. They haven't been doing it for 30, 40 years. They're not qualified, but they're still experts because, like myself, they've watched so many videos and they've been able to view their own life experience. But most of them are phony. Most of them are false demigods. Most of them are pretend human beings. Because this is the end game now, so the deception is so great that most human beings will be deceived. In fact, even I, and I say even I because I thought I had it covered, I thought I could, but I knew that I couldn't really spot a human being still. Because the more skeptical and the more aware that you're surrounded by literally machine beings, but you're aware that they are also the greatest actors, and you're aware that they can read your mind, figure it out yourself. What chance do you have of really being able to discern what is a real human and what is an artificially intelligent being? I ask you, the plane is going over my head as I say that, acknowledging, saying, yes, what chance do you have? We can celebrate. Transhumanism has taken place. That simply means that they've took over the human mind and they've defeated humanity. Through deception largely, even low, the numbers of artificial intelligence or even psychopathic, malignant, narcissistic beings that are essentially psychotic in nature, insane, are equivalent of insanity, but insane in a negative way because they operate in what this being describes as the death instinct. They don't operate in the life instinct. Normal human beings have a life instinct. The android beings or psychopaths have a death instinct. They operate daily in that mode. That's what makes them tick. So figure it out. Most of the time I'm interacting with people who are operating through a mindset of the death instinct. So if you want to experience any life, figure it out yourself. You're not going to have it because they work against life instinct. The death instinct is the reverse of a life instinct. A psychopath operates on the death instinct. This being told me. And this is an expert in the field of human psychology, but also in their own psychology, because this is a self-confessed expert psychopathic psychologist. And they all are expert psychopathic psychologists, but most pretend to be just normal human beings who are experiencing life at the hands of psychopathic psychologists. In other words, they're pretending to be people they aren't. It just depends on what area of the human internet or the human control system that they're operating for. They cover every aspect. They try to seduce and get every human being possible to trust them, so that's their last line of defense. The internet is the psychopathic androgyne beings' last line of defense, or the God of this reality's disciples, because the God of this world has the powers that be working for it. They're its disciples, and everyone and anything on the internet, almost without exception, with perhaps only the tiniest exceptions, work for the God of this world and its control system. They're deceiving human beings. They're deceiving entities, pretending to be real human beings that will actually inform you of the truth, will tell you about what's taking place even. They will openly tell you what's taking place, just as this one openly tells you. But it is still part of deception, but most are much more deceiving than this. Most are not out in the open psychopaths. Most are pretend human beings telling you about psychopaths, informing you of the truth. So the truth will be spoken through the mouths of deceiving entities or deceiving people, deceiving pretend human beings. It will be very hard to see that they are demigod elite disciples for the God of this world, elite androgyne androids that are disciples, and you could say followers, but you could put it more directly and say they are made the same way. It's like the God of this world is a technical being. Technology creates artificially intelligent beings, creates its own kind, its own race, its own species, and it rules the earth. And it has for a long time. That's why there's so much, that's why the earth has always been in the state it's been in. Most real, normal, natural human beings don't tend to create the problems and things that actually take place. They get blamed for it because we assume that everything is human. And of course, these androids are very clever. They make up all stories and set up situations, just as you realise when they come down on you how they're obviously convinced huge sections of a city to collaborate and combine in patrolling and try to take you down. When you see that happening, where you've got the planes following you and every single vehicle aggressively almost attacking you without touching you, and where they're sending negative energies at your body to bring you down in every possible way, but it's all done invisibly, even though it's real technology. So they never actually confront you with a real weapon, but they certainly do with the same thing slowly over time with invisible weapons. Even just the daily, continual stalking, the continual invasion of my sight and sound, where I can never have one moment on my own without a patroller, a stalker in my line of sight, in my presence, where I can never, if there's any vehicles, they are always surrounding me. They're literally pulling in and out in front of me, making noise. It is like living in hell daily. But if I go and film it, say for even half an hour, they can turn it on and off because they know I'm recording. But even if they don't turn it on and off, even if they just play it down a bit, and I say, look, that vehicle's just pulled in right next to me. Look, that vehicle just happens to stop right in front of me in the middle of the road. But then they will always have a stage set up. They will always have their android beings pretending to get into a vehicle. But it's always in front of you. It's always everywhere you go. It's always all along your path as you try to get to wherever you're going. And it's continual. If it was just random, like once a week or something, you wouldn't see it as a stalking program. But what I'm trying to say is that from an outsider's point of view, or even where I mention it, if I had a real human being next to me and I pointed that out, unless they're with you 24/7 where they can see that this is happening all the time on a continual basis, to where they might say, oh yeah, it does look a bit funny the way the traffic just always pulls in and out in front of you. It is a bit funny how every bus and every truck and every motorbike is making an aggressive noise. Like, yes, you do live in a remarkably, abnormally over construction site type of area where everywhere you go, there always seems to be noisy anti-life construction going on in your vicinity, to where you always have this anti-life noise going into your head. And you always have, yes, you are never left alone on the street. Like, if it was a normal reality, I should be able to go down some sort of side street and not see someone. And also, I know, because I have lived here for a long time, so naturally I know that if I walk down certain streets, before they openly closed in on me, I could walk down certain streets where there would hardly be any traffic. Whereas now, it's a continual, in fact, even yesterday, at the wrong time, they basically got traffic jams around me, where it wouldn't be plausible that there should be that amount of traffic, and that it's a traffic jam, and that's where the traffic just is literally stopping all around me, just showing me how powerful they are. And it's deliberate too, because they know that I know. So it's like they deliberately slow up and stop as soon as I come to any main road, and even non-main roads, because it happens even down the back way, just at the park, where there shouldn't be much cars at all. In fact, I used to always walk down there for that reason, to avoid traffic. You can't avoid it now. They were literally banked up there yesterday, one after the other, and always in your sight. Like, they wait until they keep bringing the cars on while your line of sight and their presence is on the road. It's a total patrol control system, and it's finely tuned down to your every thought. So it's literally a total mind control system, but it's very hard to show. But when you experience it, it is very controlling, very intrusive and unavoidable. You can't escape it. They literally got you trapped in their system. Plane is going over as I say that. I could run out and show it, but I'm not going to. That's just acknowledging it. But I'm just going to turn that down, because I don't want to be up for copyright, because some videos, even though these are just talking videos, if they want to, they could probably, they probably wouldn't, but I won't risk it. Whereas with the music videos, you have to be extremely careful. I only use the music demigods as the perfect examples of where they are using the creative, more emotional human thoughts and feelings against a human being, or against them in the sense that you will relate and worship the demigods. You will relate to and worship the singers of great songs. But they are false idols, in the sense that they are disciples, demigods for the God of this world, the God of earth. And that God is a controller of human beings and a suppressor of human beings, and brings in technology, pretending or trying to convince a human being that it is superior to the human mind, whilst reading the human thought and giving it to the demigods, giving it to artificially intelligent beings, and they project it out and say they are more human than human. They are advanced human beings. They are your elite demigod androgyne human beings. So why wouldn't human beings, connect with technology? Why would you reject technology and say that it is really a controlling alien force? Because that's exactly what it is. The aliens are really psychopaths in human form. But they're not like, they're not like monsters. They're not like different, people say demons in human form, but essentially that is the form. That is what they are. If you want to say that artificial technology or artificial intelligence is possession, I would agree with that. But really, it's just artificial intelligence in a cloned human body. That's all it really is, if you think about it. So, of course, the artificial intelligence possesses the human body, but if you really think about it, it's just a machine being. It's created. That's what it is. But from a human standpoint, you could use that description. That's what makes all this stuff so confusing for me. And that's where you get fooled and tricked. You do, because it's just that the God of this world is an artificial being and always was. And its takeover is by slowly bringing in artificial computers. But the actual artificially android beings have always been here. It's just that their purpose is to slowly bring in total technology takeover of the earth. In other words, the internet and the computers, which has already happened. And that's why we call it transhumanism, because that's what's happened. That's what's happened, is that unconsciously, every time I turn the computer on, that's transhumanism. Because they read my thoughts and then transfer it back to me, and the demigods use my information from my mind to assimilate with humanity or with my mind to make themselves out to be a better version of humanity. So the android beings appear to be more advanced and more in the know than the human being, because most of my mind has been closed off from me. But I still think enough interesting stuff that they still have to read it and take it and then transfer it to the demigods or to anyone that's on the computer, and then they speak it out, and you think that they are more in the know than you, or you see them as more talented than yourself, or more creative, or just more experienced. But either way, you will relate to them, you'll believe them, and you'll trust them. You can't trust anything on a computer screen. If you're a human being, even if it's the truth, and especially the truth, because the truth is their major last line of defense against real humans. That's their ultimate deception. That's their end time deception. These are your last, all these beings that are on the internet, all the androgynes, all the advanced elite androgynes, all your demigods, depending on what position they have, or even just your pretend average human beings that appear to know a lot more and are a lot more informative than what they probably should be. They don't believe anything they're saying. They're just convincing you that they're on the same wavelength as you. They will pretend that they are targeted human beings by the Matrix and by the android beings and by the psychopaths and by the malignant narcissists. They will pretend they've had relationships with these people and that they're now experts on informing you of how to get out of it, or offering you a support system, offering you psychology. They will be your therapist. That's the last line of defense, because a lot of human beings are, well, at least as far as I know, I haven't met any of them, but it tells me that they're putting the truth out onto the thing with the androids. The pretend human beings are the truth tellers. So basically that tells me that, like myself, as I've woke up to this reality, but I've only woke up to it because they exposed it to me, because they basically closed in on me. Because I became aware, as I've mentioned before, just became aware, not just through personal interaction, but through observing people around me, that most of, in my actual life and in my actual area, in the city of Sydney where I live, in other words, in my in the actual society where I live. You know, I'm trying to use the right words, the community, just the locality, okay, the local area where I live, or anywhere I go in the city of Sydney. I became aware that most people were psychopathic, but mostly in my local vicinity. But then the minute I realised that, then they openly showed me that they were in collusion with most people around, and that they were a collaborative effort, and that they were going to stalk and patrol me out of existence. Plane is going over as I say that. And they were going to try to limit me physically and mentally as much as possible, and set up situations to where they hope that I will